All right, so first things first, I clickbaited you. Alex Ramosi has taught me more than I could ever pay him for, and therefore he did not lie to you. But this is false. The offer is not king. And after getting asked, Dylan, I sell a free trial and I guarantee 15 booked appointments. My offer is so good, but still nobody wants it. What do I do? Time and time and time again, I realized that most people fail to implement the number one most important thing when it comes to building an offer so good that you can retire from selling. And in this video, I'm going to show you what that is and how to solve it specifically for you and your business. But first, this is Mark. Mark came up with a brilliant idea. He decided he was going to guarantee car detailers 15 booked appointments each month. LOL. But after Mark realized that he doesn't want to be another one of Tony Lee's sheep, he came up with a new idea. And Mark's new offer was to get people to invest into this new company. His offer was to give him $1,000 and he was going to come back in a few months with 10 grand just for you. Pretty sweet offer. So Mark did some outreach and no one took him up on his offer. Would you? Probably not. But what if I told you this was Mark Cuban, the billionaire investor, Shark Tank host, and owner of the Dallas Mavericks? Now, I'm not so sure about you, but I would gladly let Mark Cuban invest my money. So what's the difference between Mark and Mark Cuban? We know Mark Cuban's story, and therefore we trust him more than we trust Mark. And so therefore, offers are only valuable if trust is established first. Now, before I get into how to establish trust, I'll let you know that you can click the link in below and you can get free SMMA coaching from multiple six-figure SMMA owners to help you scale your SMMA. Or if you're a little bit more serious about your business and you really want to speed run the process to getting your first client in 30 days or less, you can sign up for the First Client Challenge, which is also free. But anyways, so how do we establish trust? Well, in early March, I joined a public SMMA Discord server, and as I joined, I noticed that there were some people in the voice chat. So I popped in just to see what was up, and what I heard made me cringe. It was one of the worst cold callers I had ever witnessed. This guy was niche hopping every 5 minutes. 5 days is bad enough. This guy was doing it every 5 minutes. And worse, he was arguing with his prospect. I kid you not. He called a prospect. The prospect answered. The guy said, "You're not running Facebook ads." The guy said, "No, we actually are doing marketing." He then responded, "No, you're not. I just checked your Facebook ads library and you're not doing Facebook ads." The prospect, being a normal human being, hung up the phone. And in an attempt to put an end to this misery, I piped up from the back of the room and said, "Hey man, I probably wouldn't cold call if I was you." And it was kind of like telling a kindergarten class, we are going to stay inside and do math instead of go out for recess. Him and the entire voice chat freaked out on me. "What are you talking about? Cold calling is the only way to get clients. You don't know who you are. Have you watched Thomas Gannett's video?" Come on. So I said, whatever, and I just left. Now the next day, I released this video, and it was how I went from 0 to 206 clients at 20 years old. And the owner of this Discord group, Saeed, who many of you probably know, shared it. Nice guy. And 24 hours later, after my story had circulated the community, I hopped back in the voice chat, and those same people who cussed me out were practically begging me for my help. And I was the same person 48 hours apart. The only difference was that they now knew my story, and therefore the most important thing you can do to establish trust with people is tell your story. So how do we do that? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain how to write your story even if you're a boring, average, do-nothing human being, the types of stories that sell like crazy, when to use your story for maximum effectiveness, and I'm going to share some examples of stories in action. So first of all, how to write your story even if you're boring. Now, all good stories have 5 key elements. The backstory, where you set the scene. The conflict, where you introduce the problem. the journey where you talk about the different things and attempts that you make to solve the problem. Stakes, what's at risk? What happens when it doesn't go wrong, or, what is the consequences of this not going your way? And then the transformation, what ended up happening and what is the result of that. So in order to write our story, we need to identify our own 5 key elements. So the first part is your backstory. So the first thing you have to do is set the scene. You have to identify, who you were before you started your journey. So this is where you set the scene and introduce your origins before you attempted to seek your desired result. So examples of this would be, back in 2019, I went to university, da 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 da. Or I have always grown up in a third world country, da 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 da. And then another one is I grew up in an upper class family. Now, what I've done for you guys to help abolish any and all objections that you guys may have of, oh, my story's boring, I'm a whatever. I'm going to give you an example of one of the hardest stories to write. I'm going to give an example for somebody who grew up in an upper class family. And I'll be transparent. I made it up as I was making this video, but the point is I'm going to show you how easy it is and how you can turn something out of nothing. So the next part is the conflict. And this is where you introduce the problem you had with your backstory. So an example for the upper class is, I grew up in an upper class family, and because of that, I've had everything handed to me, which made me feel like I wasn't capable of doing anything on my own. The next part is the journey. So this is where you explain your initial attempts to solve the problem. So because of this, I became super inspired by all these self-made entrepreneurs, and I actually made the decision to start my first business. However, in the first 3 months, I didn't make a single dollar. The next is when you introduce the stakes. This is where you stack on suspense and you let people know what happens if you never solve or solved the problem that you are facing or were facing. And so then 3 months of failure only added to my feeling of being incapable. I thought that if I didn't figure this out, I was going to be forever dependent on my family, and that was going to leave me feeling worthless. The last part is the transformation. So this is, you can talk about what finally happened or finally didn't happen. And then depending on what type of story you're using, it's where you can either ask for help to complete the transformation or then get into your pitch. Okay. So an example of this is, and so that is why I joined a group of high-level entrepreneurs who are all independent and make a ton of money to show me exactly what to do. Recently, they opened my eyes to how I can easily leverage ads to turn leads on like a tap for local gyms. And I wanted to ask if I could work for free to show you how good this is and to show you what I am made of. Right? Now think about this, okay? How many times have you pitched a free trial? And if you're pitching your free trial, okay, and you're hopping in there and I run Facebook ads and I've never done this before, I run Facebook ads and blah, 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 blah. You're trying to sell all the ins and outs of the whatever. And I hop into this story and I build rapport and I get them to become invested in my journey and I get them to trust me because they know what's at stake if I don't succeed. Who do you think this business is going to want to give a shot to? The guy who's told me what happens if he doesn't succeed and how this is all on the line for him, this is a do or die thing? Or the guy who is pulling things out of his ass and trying to convince me to do Facebook ads? It's going to be the first guy. And that is why you want to tell your story. Now, there are a few types of stories that will help you sell like crazy. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 primarily. The first one is your case studies, right? If you can tell a story of a past client that you worked with, where they were before, their backstory, their journey, their origins, their conflict, their transformation, their stakes, all that kind of stuff, it is going to resonate a ton with your future prospects because they are going to see those stories as just like them. A lot of the time, the reason why people resonate with myself so much is because they feel like I did a few years ago. They hear my story about how I was in university and I hated it and all this stuff. And they're like, damn, that's me. I'm in university too. And I hate it too. And because of that, they resonate with me so much more, which ultimately, gets them more invested in my journey, in my mission, and kind of what I have going on. So that's the first one. It's when you can tell stories about other clients that you have worked with and served. The second one is your service origin story. So this is the one that I would typically use right before pitching, and it's when you talk about, when I first got into the industry, I bought into the marketing schemes and I tried to run Facebook ads, but nothing worked. And then XYZ happened, which caused me to do ABC. And then I realized that the reason why my ads weren't working was because they looked like all the other ads. So I don't even know why I did this, if I'm being completely honest with you. But what I did was I literally just I wrote something down in my notes, I screenshot it, and I ran as an ad. It did not look like an ad whatsoever. And what happened next blew my mind, because it actually ended up being the highest performing ad that I've ever run. And that was when I realized that in order to create successful ads, you have to make sure your ad doesn't look like an ad. And so from there, we built an entire process to create these ads that don't look like ads. We put them up on Facebook, and then we introduce all of our golden follow-ups in order to get them from that Facebook ad to your calendar, right? I just made up a service origin story off the top of my head, okay? And then I would explain, how the whole thing works. The third one is your origin story, right? So that was kind of an example one that I told about earlier. And it's when you tell who you are and, where you came from, where you're going, where you came from, or where you have gone, and all that kind of stuff. This is very important to do before you even get into any of the weeds, right? They should know your origin story before they even hop on the sales call with you. Now, the next thing is, when do we use these stories? The first answer is always. But beyond always, there's one rule of thumb, and it's never pitch without first telling your story or the story, okay? So examples of when to exactly use your story is, maybe in outreach DMs, tell your story before asking for a call. One of the most popular ways to do this is to send a video message, right? Instead of asking for a call in the DMs, send a video message. Hey, my name is Dylan. Insert your story. Would love to continue this conversation over a quick 15-minute Zoom call. Right? That's a much more effective way to book a meeting, because showing your face is building more trust with people, and they're going to be more likely to book a call with you. Another one is, the discovery call. So maybe you get a lead, you're interested, you call them up. Well, before you pitch them and tell them what you do about Facebook ads, give them a 30-second condensed version of your story. Here's where I am. Here's where I started. A couple of years ago, I was working for my mom and I was calling up leads at her brokerage. And that's when I realized that the lead quality sucks. So in order to help my mom, because I'll be honest, her real estate business wasn't doing very good, I spent 100 hours plus. Honestly, it felt like a week figuring out how to build an automated prospecting system. Eventually, I came up with this prototype. We tried it. It worked okay, but it wasn't ideal, but I just kind of, I've been so motivated to help my mom out, and just kind of month over month, we refined it to where now my mom's able to get, 4 to 5 listing appointments each and every single week using this system. So how it works, and then you get into how it works. And you can see how that's so much of a better pre-frame than if I just went and do, okay, yeah, my name is Dylan, I hit you up on Instagram, and here's how it works. So here's what I'm going to try and sell you, right? Whatever. The next one is the sales call, right? So when you're on a sales call, always tell a story before pitching your service, right? That's always a very important thing to do. And in addition to that, this video right here, I break the whole thing down. So as I wrap up this video, I want to be upfront, honest, and transparent with you. My selfish, greedy desire is to help you make 5 to 15K with your agency for free. So by then, we can potentially partner and scale to 25K and beyond. That is where I actually make my money. That is why I give out all this free content. So the ways I can help you get to your first $5,000 a month with your agency is, number one, you can join my free SMMA coaching calls. Of course, all descriptions and links are going to be down in the description. Descriptions and links, I meant links in the description. However, these are limited to 25 spots, but there is a waitlist available. Right now, as of March 20th, we have about 250 people on the wait list. So good luck is all I'm going to say. The next thing is you can join the public Discord server, which I'm very active in, and will answer questions that you guys have. And the last thing is, If you are a little bit more serious about making things happen and you want to guarantee that you can get my help 7 days a week in order to get your first client in 30 days or less, you can join the 30 Days to First Client Challenge. So with that, appreciate you for taking 15 minutes out of your day to listen to me ramble, and in exchange, I hope you got some value from it. I will see you in the next